Welcome back, everyone. I'm Yvonne Davis, and this is my channel where I do general astrology and political astrology. And this video is a political astrology video for the June full moon on the 17th, but I will actually move ahead all the way into July because I've been calling this full moon in June a preview of coming attractions. So I think it's just so tied to the eclipses that I really can't talk about it fully without also mentioning the eclipses. So let me just say, if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, I hope that you will. And if you like the video, please click like and please share with your friends and family and on your social media. And also feel free to put comments in the comment section below. I love reading your comments. And so with that, I also want to share with you that I am doing a summer special, and that will be a 40% discount on my normal rate of $150, which brings it down to $90 for an hour. So let me really quickly take you over to my website. This is my website, and this is the astrology page. So all you need to do is just scroll down to the summer special and click on add to cart, and that will be $90, which again is a 40% discount. And I'm offering that for the summer because I will be in a writer's retreat. I'm going to a secluded mountain cabin in order to work on my novels. But that means that I won't be able to connect to the internet 24/7. So there's no internet, there's no phone, there's no television, no distraction, so that I can completely focus on my novels. And that means that if you sign up for a reading, or if you send me an email, it may be a few days before I respond and set your appointment. So I just wanted to give people some incentive to be patient. So if you've been wanting a reading with me, this is the time to do it. Like I said, you're going to get a 40% discount. That's huge. $90 is extremely competitive when it comes to astrology readings, not just for me, but for any astrologer. So that's a great deal, and I hope you'll take advantage of it. All right, so let me go ahead and bring up the first chart. All right, so this is the inner wheel is Donald Trump's natal chart, and the outer wheel is the June 17th Gemini Sagittarius full moon on June 17th at 4:30 a.m. on the East Coast. All right, so the first thing I want to point out is that the T-square to Neptune is getting reactivated by this full moon. That adds more intensity to it. I talked in my last video about that T-square and why it's so important. And I will put the links below. So everything you need, whether you want to go to my website and book a reading, or if you want to check out some of those other videos that talk about, I made a prediction in my last video about impeachment, that we are actually moving toward impeachment. So, and I still am more convinced than ever, and I stand by that prediction. We are definitely moving toward impeachment. So the first thing to look at is this T-square. Again, I mentioned it in the other video, but this full moon is going to intensify that because, as you can see, it's a pretty tight square between Jupiter and Neptune. Now, Jupiter does rule truth. Jupiter is the truth seeker. However, it also rules beliefs, and in its shadow side can be very righteous. And the problem with being righteous is that when you are stuck in that energy of righteousness, you are not open to new information coming in. which may be the facts, you know. It's like they say nowadays, the facts don't seem to matter to some people. But I believe that that's why we're going to move toward impeachment, because we need to change the narrative. The narrative right now is in Neptune's shadow side, which is all about lies, deceit, deception. It's a phony narrative, and is trying to deny everything that has happened. And of course, that's Donald Trump. He's the one who's trying to create a new narrative that denies the facts. And the square means that there are a lot of people who are buying into that narrative. And that's a problem. So with the full moon, it's going to intensify that square. And, you know, so that impacts both sides. It impacts the side that's moving toward impeachment, but it also intensifies Donald Trump's motivation to lie. So anyway, that's getting more intensified with the full moon. And then there's something else that happens 2 days later. I'm just going to go ahead and bring up that chart. So the full moon is June 17th. I'm going to bring up a chart for June 19th, 2 days later. All right. Okay, so I'm calling this the June full moon intensity chart. And the reason why I'm calling it that is because 2 days later, the full moon conjoins Pluto in Capricorn. So even though it's 2 days later, it's still a full moon. And when it's conjunct Pluto, that energy, it's an all or nothing kind of energy. It's very intense. And so when you take that T-square and then you magnify it with a full moon, it's just so intense. And what we've got going on here is a conjunction of Mercury, Mars, the North Node, and the Ascendant. That's very intense energy there. Mars is the warrior. Mars gets angry, mixed with Mercury, the communicator. Those are going to be some angry words, possibly even angry actions. Very intense energy. And then it's opposed to the South Node, Saturn, Pluto, and the Moon. And so this is basically Donald Trump. He's Mars. He's angry. He's speaking out, lashing out with angry words, trying to control the narrative, getting more and more desperate. And then he's in opposition to a brick wall. And that brick wall is basically the rule of law. It's our government. It's our institutions. It's the Mueller report. It's Mueller speaking. It's and I'm not talking about at this point. I'm talking about where he spoke on the 29th for 10 minutes. But that 10 minutes was so powerful that I believe it was one of the events that changed the course of events. And so that's part of it. Mueller has played a huge, huge role in this. And but it's also Congress. So there's a lot of things stacking up against him, and it is basically going to be a brick wall. He just can't get past the Mueller report, and it is driving him insane. It's just going to get worse and worse and worse and more intense, and he's going to get more and more squeezed by these oppositions and the squares, and he just can't break through that wall. He just keeps hitting his head against that wall. And that power struggle with Pluto and the karma there. There's all kinds of karma building up here, hitting his vertex, which is fate. And he just can't get past that Mueller report because he has karma. He's committed crimes. and he needs to be held accountable, and that's the direction we're moving in. Now, I don't know exactly which day Congress is going to announce the formal impeachment inquiry. Right now, they're just doing informal, I mean, it's just part of the ongoing investigations that they do, and they're collecting and gathering information, which is important. But at some point, and I don't know exactly if it will be the full moon in June or the new moon eclipse in July or the full moon eclipse in July. But what I'm saying is by the time we reach that full moon eclipse, there will be absolutely no doubt. It will be official by then, okay? So that's why I'm calling this June full moon a preview of coming attractions, because whatever is happening with this new moon in June, leading up to it, because every full moon has a bell curve. So we lead up to it starting 4 or 5 days ahead, and then we reach the peak when it's exact, and then it tapers off, except for this full moon is not going to taper off because of the fact that it's going to make those conjunctions. So let me bring that chart up again so you can see that one more time. All right, so here we go. When the full moon enters Capricorn, it will first conjoin the South Node, and then it will conjoin Saturn, and it will oppose Mars, it will oppose Mercury, and it will conjoin Pluto. So this full moon is not going anywhere. It's just getting more and more and more intense. And when you have a full moon conjunct Pluto, what happens is it's an all or nothing kind of energy. So this is a tipping point, and it's definitely a preview of coming attractions. So I'll go ahead and take you now to the next chart, which is the new moon eclipse on July 2nd. Okay, so in my last video where I predicted impeachment, I talked about how Mars had to hit this point at 10 degrees of Cancer, which it did. And you can see that if you watch my last video, or if you watch the Gemini new moon video, you'll see I talked more about how Mars had to hit that point in time. Actually, I think it was just the last video. That's where I talked about it, the impeachment video. So, so this eclipse degree is extremely important. And as I mentioned, and it brings something new, and it's right over his Mercury. And that's why that point is so important, because astrologically, it's a timing trigger, okay? So with Mars hitting that point and then the new moon eclipse hitting that point, something gets triggered. And what I predicted in my last video is what gets triggered is we move formally into the impeachment process. It won't be a debate anymore. And with it conjunct the midheaven and the North Node, it will be very public. So, and it's also taking us in a new direction because of its conjunction to the North Node. It's very karmic. And I also think it's important to look at the square with this Mars-Mercury conjunction. As I said, this is angry words. And so now it's in the fiery sign of Leo. And yeah, Donald Trump is just going to, his whole verbose nature, his violent words, you know, his anger, he just cannot control himself. He is so reactive. And that's just going to get worse and worse and worse as the powers that be squeeze him and force him to face his karma, force him to face the choices he has made in his life. He created this. They're not just out to get him. he actually created this. And it's just coming around, you know? It's the chickens come home to roost, as they say. Okay, but the fact that this is conjunct is bad enough, but then it's squaring Uranus. And so with the square to Uranus, it's going to cause, you know, Uranus is so unpredictable. It's shocking, it's surprising, it comes out of nowhere, it comes out of the blue, and it also makes us say things that we might later regret. And I think Donald Trump has said many, many things he has later regretted, and he will do so again. So that's what the new moon eclipse is bringing. And now I'll switch over to the full moon eclipse. Okay, so again, we've got these planets piling up in opposition to each other. So we've got Venus, the North Node, the Sun, and the vertex, which rules fate. And they're activating these planets in his natal chart. Especially the new moon eclipse activated Mercury, and then these planets are activating Saturn and Venus. And then on the other side, this is the opposition. This is Saturn, which rules authority and government, and the South Node, which takes things away, removes things, because it forces us to face our old karma and work through it so that it can sweep it out. And Pluto is power, and the full moon brings things to fruition. Full moon eclipse is 3 times more powerful than a regular full moon, and again, it's conjunct Pluto, which is an all or nothing energy. So that's why I call it the brick wall. Donald Trump is hitting the brick wall. Now, at this point, Mars conjoins Pluto, and the very next day, July 17th, is when it makes its exact conjunction to Pluto. This is a very violent energy. And so what I said is impeachment itself is in a sense a kind of energetically violent process because of the inherent conflict. And, you know, with Donald Trump being that Mars energy, that angry Mars energy, conjunct Pluto, which is power, that's a very violent energy. And then on top of it, it's squaring Uranus. So he's just going to be going ballistic, basically. And because he cannot break through that brick wall. And now the whole thing with the impeachment is final. That's what this full moon eclipse conjunct Pluto will bring on July 16th and up to 4 days following that, which is July 20th. So within that week, you will see that it's final. The only thing I think could possibly happen is if they decide to impeach and they want to give congressmen the weekend to consider their vote or something like that, then it could possibly stretch out to Monday, which I think would be the July 22nd. But I can't possibly see that it would go beyond that, just because of the timing of the full moon eclipse. I mean, this energy is going to be so intense that it's going to bring a kind of finality to it. And so I rest with my prediction in my last video. We are definitely, absolutely 100% moving toward impeachment. And it hasn't been formalized yet in Congress, but by this point in July, absolutely it will be. And I don't know exactly when that will happen, but will happen with one of these lunations, and certainly this full moon eclipse. There will be absolutely 100%, no doubt, we are moving toward impeachment. So I think that's about all I can say on this. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this to a close. And I think some people, I know one person had a question about why didn't I mention Saturn? And that's probably, well, certainly one of the most important points in his chart that's being hit because of this opposition. And Venus rules relationships and our finances and things like that. So both of them are going to be impacted by these oppositions, which run all the way into 2020. So yeah, I think that's it. I think there was one more thing. I hope I'm getting this right because I didn't go back and check, but someone had mentioned World Prayer Day, and I believe they said that it was going to be on this full moon eclipse of July 16th, and asked me to mention that on my channel. So, so that's something else I want to draw your attention to is that prayer day, which means, you know, just trying to, you probably want to do some research on it. Again, I'm just doing this off the top of my head, so I'm just trying to remember. The people ask me things and then I forget. But I'm pretty sure someone did ask me to announce that on my channel. So, but yeah, I would suggest actually, if you're interested in that, look it up on the internet and get some more information about that. Okay, so that's it for today. And again, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe and ring the bell for notifications. Like this video, share it with friends and family on social media, and please comment below. I love to read your comments. And if you want to book a reading, again, I'm doing the summer special for $90 for an hour-long reading. You'd be hard-pressed to find any astrologer giving it at that price, and that's a 40% discount for me. So just remember, though, to be patient with me. It may take me a few days to get in touch with you and schedule your appointment. And I think that's it. So, so I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope that you will have a wonderful June and the beginning of your fabulous summer. And I will talk to you soon.